Ja, hallo und herzlich willkommen zu unserem neuen Video bzw. zu unserem neuen Podcast. Wir haben heute einen Gast aus Polen, Professor Henryk Okarma. Professor Okarma ist ja europaweit bekannter Wissenschaftler, der sich viele Jahrzehnte sehr intensiv unter anderem mit auch dem Wolf beschäftigt hat. Professor Okarma ist auch der Erstautor dieses kleinen Handbuches Wolf, das wir an verschiedenen Stellen ja auch schon mal zitiert haben. Und wir freuen uns, dass Professor Okarma heute hier ist und wir auch ein Gespräch mit ihm führen können. Welcome, Henryk, here, and thank you for being here. Thank you for giving the lecture. And actually, we should discuss a little bit on the question of wolves in Europe again, and especially on the situation that the EU changed the annex of the FFH directive from 4 to 5, from strictly protected to protected. And we know that Poland has a situation in the past, Annex V. What is your experience and what is your idea, what will bring the future for the rest of Europe?
Okay. So actually, the situation quite changed from the last time when we met, actually, when we also discussed the future, what it could be. And I think that it will be also nice to go even more deep to the past, you know. It's just like what really happened right now. It is just the logical consequence, the development of the wolf population and the idea of the conservation of the species which we used to have here. I told you students that in North America we got that model of separation of large carnivores from us, and they would like to achieve coexistence on the basis of somehow spatially distinguish between humans and large carnivores. In Europe, from this 2014, for this famous paper by Chaperon in Science, when they got that famous sentence that we can fully coexist with large carnivores in Europe, even though that we are densely populated and so and so. And in 2016, Dave Mitch wrote a nice comment to this paper when he said that's okay, the idea is great, super, very maybe, you know, idealistic and very nice accepted by the people living in the cities. However, he somehow foreseen that the full extent of the conflict is still in front of us. And actually, he was 100% correct, because only 8 years passed, and then when EU somehow initiated, it was just, of course, it was somehow initiated by the Minister of Agriculture, definitely by the states, but anyway, the EU initiated, actually finished successfully the process to downgrading the status of the wolf. In Poland, we got a lot of tremors about that, things that it will be a disaster for the conservation of the species, which I completely disagree. Because what is going to change for Europe? For Europe now, the wolf will be moved. Of course, the first step was the Berne Convention, but finally the Habitat Directive will be moved totally as the species from the Annex IV to the Annex V. So it means that no longer the full requirement of the strict protection, but we got Annex V, which means that we might manage the species. Of course, the question is, what does it mean, management? But it's another thing. So, like, for example, in Germany, definitely, and all European countries will have much better flexibility of management. When I was recently in Brussels and I was talking on a sort of the meeting with some bureaucrats from the European Commission, they said that if this change is going to be officially published in the official journal of EU, then these countries will have 18 months to communicate to the European community what they are going to do. And of course, this is a variety of things. As you said, the priority will be still the favorable conservation status of the species. So it doesn't mean, as that many people are saying like that we are going to open, you know, full hunting season all over Europe and kill out of the wolves. No way. Each country, including Germany, have to definitely work out his own, I would call it management plan, conservation plan, whatever.
And I think, yes, you're right, completely right. I think in Germany we have actually a kind of so-called management. It's a wait-and-see strategy. So the first wolves came to Germany, reproduced, and we observed them and counted them, and we made some protection with fences against predating livestock, but it was no kind of active management. It was a kind of passive management, yes. And yes, actually, we will see what happens, because actually wolf is under nature conservation legislation completely. Some states put it also into the hunting legislation, but it doesn't make any sense. Nature conservation legislation is a federal thing, and we actually should discuss this at the first. Should wolf change into the protection of hunting legislation, or should it stay covered by nature conservation legislation? I think the protection will be the same, at least the same. Hunting legislation is also a very high level of protection. No animal species the last 100 years under hunting legislation has been lost. So we lost a lot of animals with nature protection laws, but no with hunting legislation. But it's a political...
yes, there's definitely the political decision. This is on one hand. On the other hand, then the sort of some sort of strategy should be worked out, because anyway, we are in the complete and different situation, as you remember 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when you mentioned the development of the wolf population. For example, we still will be obligated, because this is the Habitat Directive species and priority species still will be obligated to have a reliable monitoring system. That monitoring system, at least in Germany, should change completely, because it's this monitoring which was used at the beginning, which was very laborious, time-consuming and so. It was okay when the wolf was on the relatively limited areas. You can put such amount of money, effort, and so. But now, if you got the wolves in huge areas of Germany, this monitoring is useless. For example, the challenge for Poland is that we have any country monitoring at all. And we got wolves basically everywhere, in 90% of the Poland. And that's what would be required for the future management is, first of all, monitoring. We should know where the wolves are, and we should know how many. Because, if we would like to discuss the future management steps, for example, just for example, in Scandinavia, they decided together, they should be in Scandinavia 300 wolves, and all about 300 is just killed, And so it will be not possible to escape from numbers. We should have also the numbers, because if we are discussing the favored population number, we should have this number. So the monitoring of the distribution, but also the monitoring of number, which in Poland is not existing anymore.
Yeah, we have the numbers. We have, say, a minimum number. But the next question would be the favorable conservation status. In my opinion, we have reached that status according to the Article 1 of the FFH Directive, because it tells us three criteria. One is the population dynamics. Population is growing, still growing. The second criterion is the habitat. There is enough habitat. Yes, we have enough. Wolf, in my opinion, can live anywhere. Absolutely. From the perspective of wolf, maybe not from perspective of humans. And the third is the situation will not change during the next time. And I think so we have this favorable conservation status yet. In my opinion also, all these other criteria, they are often mentioned by nature conservation organizations. So say effective population number, some genetic preconditions, and so on and so on. I think this is additional but not necessary for the status. How do you think?
Yes, I completely agree. And additionally, I think that we should... What is the difference between the way of thinking of these different NGOs and let's say the way of thinking what we can call a reliable management of the population? That they think in terms of individual wolves, and of course they are right. If, for example, it can be killed, a male which got a function of that dominant male, for example, in the group, there's something have a sort of effect on the function of the whole group, And but we are not actually interested in the wolf which has a name on the individual wolf. We should be interested from the management point of view, we are interested in the population. Yeah. And I also told during the lecture that all scientific evidence which we have, which was gathered from the time of David Meach, from the first papers published and so, when they also managed wolves, hunted wolves and so, that the scientific evidence is saying, okay, if the hunt is the culling of wolves is very intensive, if it can exceed, for example, 28%, 30%, yes, it will be a negative effect for the dynamic of the population. However, if we reduce population less than 20%, nothing wrong is going to happen to the population because the population is still going to grow. But the sort of debate between, let's say, us as people focusing on the population and NGOs is that they treat each individual wolf as the sort of super value. And I do not know how this disagreement is going to be solved. I know that some declarations from some European countries, which you know right now, is completely crazy because one of the most interesting information which I got recently was that in Norway, the number of wolf pack in Norway is fewer than in the Netherlands. In Dutch people got more wolves than in Norway. Why? Because the Norwegian politicians, which are the countries run by the agral farmer parties and so, they decided that, okay, they will have to have 6-7 packs in Norway. That's all. That's completely all. So then the question is, what will be the political decision within Germany, France, all of the countries? We will have completely different situation. Switzerland, for example, already declared the maximum number. And it is already done. Of course, it is not within EU, but anyway, this is in the same population complex when we are with him. I do not know what about Austrians, what they are going to do.
So the situation in Austria is difficult because actually they have the same concept like in Germany to take different individuals, maybe not individually, maybe not by name, but by the region, maybe a circle of 10 kilometers around the place where the individual has been predated. And then they take any wolf, and if the wolf has been taken and the problems are gone, it's okay. And if the problems persist, they can take in the next one. So this is in a lot of states of Austria. There are also a federal situation with different states. But it's similar to Germany, but more liberal, we can say, yes.
This is also another thing which is also important, which we already discussed yesterday. It is how we are going to remove those wolves. Because on one hand, we might have a political decision, okay, for example, the decision is to kill a certain number of wolves. But then what we got right now, Poland is a nice example. In Poland, wolf is fully protected. It is Annex V, but we decide Polish law that is fully protected. But in the case of the very heavy depredation, the authority in Warsaw can give a special permit to kill. But that permit is given only for the vegetation season. Knowing the biology of the wolf, what we should achieve doing this type of thing, we should achieve that the wolves should be somehow a little bit far away from us. We should move them out of us. And this goal can be achieved only in the so-called old-fashioned hunting. So let's say when the pack is compact, for example, in the winter, and then we are killing one out of the pack, and then the rest of the pack somehow got the idea that, okay, the humans are not so friendly, maybe, they are not so close to us. And if we are removing the one particular individual during the summertime, that lesson is somehow not to be tell the wolves. So I think that one level is the political decision, but then it's also many details which should be somehow solved with this. So that's, I'm always saying that it should be a program. So
very, very interesting. So
from let's say from the legal point of view, now member states got 18 months to communicate to Brussels actually what they are going to do. Not only what they are going to do, but they should, rather, in my opinion, they should also communicate how they are going to do it, because still the final and the most important thing is the favorable conservation status of the species. And it is not true what the NGOs very often are telling, that it is a disaster for the European wolf population, that is going to be overhunted. You know, for example, in Poland, I'm saying that we are not at all discussing that we are going to hunt wolves. It's, in my opinion, is absolutely not this stage. However, we should discuss how to decrease the number in some places, in some situations. In Latvia, for example, the game is, wolf is the game species. They hunt it. So I think that within EU, there will be a very big difference between the countries.
It's very interesting. So that means that we as a scientist should recommend, yes, you have to think over 3 situations. One situation is one wolf is making problems, and this individual or some individuals around have to be taken out of the natural habitat. Second situation is timidity. Wolf has to keep away from man. Wolf has learned for 25 years in Germany now that man is harmless.
Absolutely.
And food is to get very easily in the surroundings of man. So wolves have to learn again that man is dangerous for wolves, and they have to keep timidity, say the wolf have for the future to behave as a normal wild animal. And the third situation, maybe it's a special situation, somewhere we have to reduce wolf number actually because of human settlements or kindergarten or whatever, where we do not like to tolerate a wolf pack directly to man. So this is 3 situations, very simple, and we have to make a concept. We or the authorities have to make a concept, how can we reach that? And we should reach it, or we can reach it, in my opinion, including the hunters, because they are trained to be outside. But in my opinion, the hunters have to learn a lot. What do you think?
Definitely. So I think that if it's going to be a game species again, whatever country we are taking under consideration, or it is just the species protected, however, decision will be to reduce the number, it is completely idealistic what I heard in Poland that, okay, we are going to live trap that wolves, and put them to the enclosure, some wolf sanctuary, whatever. That's maybe okay if you think about 1, 2 wolves, but not if the problem is coming to dozens or hundreds, So realistically, only hunters can do it. With our guns, with our, but you are completely right that not every hunter can do it. That I think that we should create a sort of the elite group of hunters, which should be educated by scientists. Actually, they should have a good scientific background. They should be educated how to do it, when, and so, and only because still the species is somehow sensitive, even from the social point of view, and how people in the cities, judge the wolves, for example. It's very sensitive subject. So we should create a group of hunters, top hunters or elite hunters, who can carry on this task, and then they will be fully responsible for that. They should know what will be the consequence of the wrong decision, for example. They should really strictly follow the law, and they should somehow, let's say, kill the wolves according to the sort of special protocol which we discussed earlier. So summer versus winter, but definitely the education. This is the basis for that.
Very interesting,
So like in Poland, for example, we got nearly 40,000 hunters. I think that we should adopt exactly the same idea. We should somehow select a group of persons for, I don't know, the given province, for example. When we got at wolves, they should pass a special courses, educated. It's a sort of similar things when we got with the beavers in Poland. Beaver is also the protected species. However, according by the special permits from if the damage is very high, the beavers, a certain number of beavers can be killed by hunters, of course, every season. And then this hunter, to do that, should pass a special courses and should have a sort of exam. It's not legal to kill it on the water because the body is lost and so and so. So there are some rules, and he should pass them. And I think that in the wolves it is exactly the same. The another thing is also when we are discussing the question of monitoring in Poland, it's always the same. You mentioned the second criteria is the habitat. For me, it's also very interesting because some years ago, colleagues of mine from Mama Research Institute in Białowieża, they make a nice paper, which they created a sort of the model, in which it was also based on this criteria of the monitoring of Natura 2000 species in this type of the wolves, where the quality of the habitat was one of the key factors. So they took forest, the cover of forest, which is in Poland 35% more or less, the prey base and so, and they created a model where the most likely wolves will be in Poland. And they said, okay, wolves will be maximum 35-40% of Poland because they are forest species, you know, the number would be around less than 2,000. And then if you see the current distribution of the wolf, it means 95%. It means that we should also make a revision of our concept of the habitat for the monitoring. Why forests only? And what about...
It's similar in Germany. We have our first modeling of wolf distribution showed or told us that the Ore Mountains and the mountain regions will be settled first.
Larger forests, maybe?
But anybody knew also at that time that it will be not the case, because we know about large predators that they are keeping in the lowland. If they are wandering, they avoid obstacles and so on. So I think there is also not only a problem in modeling, but also in knowledge about the species in the beginning.
And what is going to happen in the real life, actually? We also discussed, you know, it was, you know, not in front of the camera, but also the idea which that the presence of wolves can cause also not only the problem to the livestock, to the depredation of the livestock, but also that the livestock is used in many places in Germany, also in Poland, as the very effective tool to maintain the landscape, especially the open areas.
Clearly,
And then what is going to happen if if those wolves are coming, for example, and they are killing those sheep or goats, which are actually fixed in that particular place to maintain the landscape. This is not the problem between livestock owners or hunters.
It's a nature conservation internal intrinsic conflict.
Absolutely.
And too much protection of wolf will lead to problems in nature protection in open landscape. What, maybe we come to an end, and what do you think, if we are not able to decide during the next 2 years what concepts should be applied, what will be happen in your opinion?
On one, let's say, knowing bureaucrats and Brussels anyway, each of the European countries will be obligated. So anyway, the suggestions is going to come. Poland definitely, what I know already from the Polish Minister of Environment, is going to declare that nothing is going to happen, to change. So we will still got it as the full protected, whatever. But I think that also from the point of view of the wolf biology, it is exactly the same process in Germany. The wolves just, they got territories, we got, you know, increase in the population at least 20% per year. So we got 20% higher number every year, and they have to find a new territory. So what we observe in Poland, it started from the forest, typical forest, that's what was in the model. Then they moved to agriculture, huge agriculture areas, and now they are very close to the big cities, also in the tiny, small places, whatever they can find it. Because for them, if they only can reproduce, if they go to food. So, and then it's not the matter of frightened, but in Poland they are saying that I'm frightening society. I'm not frightening society, but the probability to meet wolves, I mean individual probability with humans, encounters with the humans is growing and growing and growing. From the pure mathematical point of view, sooner or later we will have really a serious case, then the wolf will attack humans. That's what happened, for example, in the United States in 2005, 2010, when those two people are killed. And knowing also politicians, even those very green, you know, if this type of thing will happen, and this case will be, you know, not be possible to somehow to, you know, to put under the carpet and so, then we will have for the rational conservation, it will be a disaster, because the politicians will say, okay, just kill them. And then the question is how many, so they kill. And I'm a little bit afraid that that's what we started. We should be proactive. We should somehow reduce the probability of such bad encounters by our active management. This point of view is not very popular.
It's not very popular, but it will help wolf and the prey and the humans, and I think
all our, because and all of that conservation actually, because soon we will have also internal conservation conflict, which should be somehow solved.
Okay. Yes, Henryk, thank you very much for being here.
Welcome.
Thank you for the interview.
if we are still alive, we will see what we're going to happen in the next 2 years.
We will see. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.